Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the categories that I talk about, or like that I break it down into, is also personal growth. So, what does the best
Okay.
version of you look like? And
So
for
it's
me, it's growing every year. It's learning something new. It's not getting stuck. It's not getting stale. It's learning something new every year.
Hey everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this week on In Pursuit of Better. Today we have a super cool guest who's joining us all the way from Australia, Kat May Jeffrey. She has a really cool story on how she went from a corporate environment that was stressing her out and then found out exactly what she wanted to do, and that was helping others, coaching them, and helping them level up in their career. So her story is super motivational, very inspiring, and she's a great person just to follow to see all the positivity that she puts out there. So remember to like, subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. But let's jump right into the conversation. Well, where I want to start, I think,
Mhm.
is your story is about you had the success in the corporate world, but then kind of transitioned out of it. What was
Mhm.
that work like for you? Because I know what it was for me, but you obviously got further along, had a little bit more success there. But I'm kind of curious at what that life was like for you and what kind of made you switch out of it.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So basically, I had a really awesome and successful career in the corporate world. And I worked for some amazing companies. And I really, in my 20s, I was thriving. My corporate career took off literally when I was 20. I got my first leadership role when I was 23. And then I skyrocketed up the leadership ladder from kind of 23 to 33. I went from team leader level to executive leader, reporting to the CEO. And
Wow.
that was so exciting, and there was so much happening at that time in the world, and I had a pretty amazing ride to that point. Like, it was success after success after success, achievement after achievement. But when I got to that point, I realized that I had moved way too fast up the corporate ladder, and I wasn't ready for such a demanding role. And I also didn't realize, it looks like glitz and glamour from the outside, but once you get to that level of leadership and that far up the corporate ladder, shall we say, there isn't much work life balance whatsoever. And the demands were so intense that I became, in a period of 6 months, so fatigued and burnt out. Like, I was working 6 days a week, 16 hours a day. I was on call 24/7. So that meant that I was literally taking calls because I was working for Virgin Australia at the time and I had an international crew. I would get calls at 2:30 a.m. to make critical decisions about a crew member getting on board or a passenger abusing a crew member, or something like that. And it was really, really tiring. And I was traveling a lot as well. And I became like physically burnt out. So I just started having all these really bad headaches. I couldn't sleep. I started putting on all this weight. I was breaking out in pimples. Like, I was having this physical reaction to burnout. And because became so stressed and anxious, I ended up flunking out at that role. I ended up,
Hmm.
getting fired, actually, because they could tell I couldn't handle it and I couldn't handle it. And as a result of that, I was physically burnt out, and it took me 3 months to physically become well again. So to get back, to get my, nervous system back on track, to get my body back into a healthy rhythm, and even just sleeping again, it took me 3 months. And so that was my wake up call of like, I need to do something differently. And at that point in time, I still thought I wanted to be part of the corporate world. So what I did was I took on another corporate role, but I learned all the lessons from the not climbing the corporate ladder, making sure I had work life balance, all of that type of thing. And it was great for the first year, but then I started getting this like uncomfortable feeling of like, just going to work and doing the burn and churn and having to adhere by all these corporate rules, the red tape that I call it. And I just wasn't feeling fulfilled anymore. Like, I wasn't excited. I didn't wake up. I used to wake up excited to go to work. I used to get really passionate about the company's vision and goals and all of that type of thing. And I found myself on the train on the way to work one day, and I was thinking, I just don't want to go. I do not want to go to work today. And I hadn't had that feeling in a long time. And I really had to dig deep, like, why am I feeling like this? And I got to the point that I don't feel like I'm living out my true purpose. I want to help people. I love being a leader. I love helping people, but I get to do that about 20% of the time at work. The other 80% is, meeting the company's financial targets, understanding what the customers need, all of that type of thing. So only 20% of the time I'm actually feeling fulfilled. So I thought, well, what can I do to feel more fulfilled? So I started studying life coaching. And once I started studying life coaching, I was just like, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. This is, it was almost like these light bulbs were going off. And I realized that this is what I wanted to do. So I started coaching people at the same time as I was doing my corporate role. And now all I wanted to do was coaching. I didn't want to do my corporate role anymore. So that was really the time where I thought it's time to make the change. Now, was I scared? Yes.
What were the physical representations of that burnout for you? You said it was, it really took 3 months literally to get back to a healthy place. What were those physical symptoms of it?
The physical symptoms of the burnout from the first role?
Yeah.
So the first one was sleep. So I could not sleep. As I'd go and lay down at night, and my mind was in overdrive, and I would toss and turn and get up and lay back down. So I was getting maybe 2 hours a night sleep. And then I would get up for the day and just feel like so physically sluggish, like it was like an effort to get out of bed. I'd have to have like a half an hour shower to wake me up in the morning because I was just feeling so tired and so exhausted. And it's just that feeling of having to drag yourself constantly. And I was needing coffee all the time to help me get through the day. And then you become so dependent on coffee. And then that actually ended up being one of the reasons I realized why I wasn't sleeping, was because I was drinking so much coffee to keep me going throughout the day. But also, I just didn't want to eat any healthy food. Like, the thought of healthy food, I was like, yeah, I just want McDonald's, and I want hot chips, and I want greasy food. And because it's this cycle of, like, these bad habits continuing. So I'm eating really unhealthy food. I'm drinking a lot of coffee. I'm not sleeping. And so then physically my skin started breaking out with pimples. I was putting on weight, and even the color of my skin was like a pale. I just looked withdrawn. I looked old. Like, I looked like I'd aged 5 or 6 years. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, and even to the point of, like, my hair was really dry, and there's all types of, basically every physical point in my body didn't look the same. I had black rings under my eyes. And it's just the energy as well. Like, I just had no energy. It's just like everything was such an effort to do. I had to really push myself. And that is honestly the worst feeling. I hate feeling like that. I'm a really energetic, vibrant person. So to go from having all this positive energy that I can, I spring out of bed usually. I have 8 hours sleep. I'm, vibing. I'm excited. I get excited easily, but all of that was gone completely.
No, I appreciate you explaining that, because I think it could be different for everybody. And that's why, a lot of people say, well, I'm so busy, I'm burnt out, but I just wonder what that actually means for people.
Yeah.
And then you said that you actually studied coaching. Did you know that was it because of like you managing people that you knew you wanted to do that? And what did studying it look like?
Yeah, so basically, the most favorite part of my role, because I was a leader, was having my monthly or weekly or fortnightly one-on-ones with my team members. And I was always so focused on career and development. And I just loved those sessions. I loved helping them. I loved helping them grow. And for me, when I seen them become successful, like I just felt lit up inside. Like it was just this like feeling in my heart of like, like when you're like, just like, yes, like almost like I'd won a race, that feeling of winning a race. That's the feeling I would get when I would see one of my staff members win because, they did that course or they did that presentation or they asked that person to mentor them or they applied for that job and they got it. And it was just such an awesome feeling for me. So that was, and I always gravitated towards that. I did more one-on-ones than most leaders did. We were meant to do them monthly. I did them fortnightly, sometimes even weekly. Because I just loved it. And that was my favorite part of my role. And I always gravitated towards the one-on-ones. I always made the one-on-ones a priority, maybe sometimes more than I should have, but because I just loved it. And I had that sense, that winning feeling within myself, that sense of achievement, that sense of fulfillment, I would say. So because I knew I loved doing the one-on-ones, which really is coaching, because I'd had some learning along the way through my corporate roles, because a lot of your corporate roles, they have in-house training, or I'd won a leadership program to do some work at one of the universities. So along the way, I had learned about coaching through different courses that I had done. So I said, I'm just going to do a program fully focused on coaching. So that made me start studying.
So you actually took a course on it, like you, okay.
Yes. So I was studying at the same time as working in my corporate job. And I also started coaching clients as well. So studying, coaching, and doing a full-time corporate job.
That probably all helped with the burnout, right?
Yes, exactly. And one of the things I've learned throughout my life is I am a classic overcommitter, because I love doing things. I love adventure, excitement, all of that kind of stuff. So when someone asks me to do something, like I straight away say yes. Just how when you asked me to do this podcast, like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't think, how's my schedule going to go? Can I fit this in? So sometimes I can overcommit, but I think it's a good thing most of the time.
Now, we talked a little bit about that last time, about us being people pleasers and how that kind of can lend itself to getting overcommitted, for sure.
Absolutely.
Were you always like that, you think, being a people pleaser and overcommitting yourself?
I was. Yeah, I was a people pleaser. So, and I've done a lot of work over the last 5 years in particular around the people pleaser, because really when you're a people pleaser, you're not necessarily living your life for you. You're living your life for everybody else, and you're spending a lot of your time fulfilling other people's lives and not your own life. And what can happen is you become lost, because you actually are not doing things for yourself anymore. And then you become lost, as in, what's important to me? Who am I really? And the other thing is, you can also take on a lot of stress from other people as well. So my people pleasing goes all the way back to when I was a child, because this is when from kind of 0 to 7, that's when we form most of our beliefs, because we've experienced most emotions in our life between 0 and 7. And depending on your life experiences in that time also drives your behavior. And so when I was younger and we were growing up, we didn't have much money. And when I went to school, I kind of started realizing that I don't fit in. Like, I'm not like everyone else. I don't have that brand new school bag, or I don't have a brand new school uniform, or I can't go on that school excursion because we don't have any money. And we lived in what's called Housing Commission in Australia, which is like government funded housing. And when people at school started finding this out, they started teasing me about this. this. They started bullying me about this and calling me all kinds of names, and I became shameful of that. I became shameful, I became embarrassed, and I didn't want to feel shame and embarrassment. So what I did was I overcompensated by being a people pleaser and almost like sucking up people's asses, excuse my French, if that's okay, to get their acceptance. Because in my mind, I was a lower class than other people. So I had to try harder and I had to do more just to fit in and just to be the norm. So that became my way of coping in life. And then it's the way that so the behavior becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's just the way you survive almost. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I realized what a people pleaser I was, that I realized I'm doing all of these things for everybody else, but I'm not really happy within myself. And then the way that I overcame that was I actually hired a coach. So I had a coach personally. And so I also had that experience from having a coach on the impact that they can have on your life. That also inspired me to become a coach as well. So I had to do a lot of work to understand why I was a people pleaser and understand my behavior and then change my behavior, which is really, really challenging to do.
How does knowing what you know now and that there's such a big impact on those first 7 years of life, how does that change the way you parent with a
Oh
with a
my
new
gosh. Yes. So I have a little baby girl, Lily. She's 6 months old. She just turned 6 months on the weekend, actually. But for me, understanding the impact and how critical those years are is constantly in my mind as a parent. And my partner and I are always working together to have this united front on our parenting, to have our family values, to make sure we're aligned to those, to make sure we're giving each other feedback if we're not aligning to those, and that we're growing together and also upskilling as well. Like we're looking into doing some parenting classes and things like that so that we can be the best parents we possibly can be for our daughter.
That was my next question is like, where do you look for that information? But if you guys are, at least you have the self-awareness to know like, hey, let's look into some classes to make sure we're doing everything we can. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I've also done some parenting coaching through the coaching program that I've been doing. So I had a little bit of a head start there on like definitely developing family values is so important. Like, what are your family values, and making sure that you're staying true to those. And when you make decisions, are you making them in line with your family values so that there is that consistency?
That makes a lot of sense. I like that because I don't think that just having those conversations about what those values are and having kind of a compass pointing to, what we're trying to accomplish as parents, or at
Yes.
least what we're trying to instill in our children is
Yeah.
important. You keep talking about these coaching relationships, and I think that's really interesting. What does that relationship mean for you? Because it's not always just a career thing, right? Like, even though you may be a career coach, what does that relationship do for you or for somebody that finally gets a coach?
Yeah. So for me personally, when I first looked into getting a coach, I had no idea what is this going to be. And initially what I thought it would be her telling me what to do.
Right.
But it's not about her telling me what to do at all. It is about her asking me amazing questions to find the answers within myself that are aligned to me, because otherwise it's not really, again, living my life. It's living whatever my coach is telling me to do. So if you think about a traditional coach, say, for example, a basketball coach at school, and your basketball coach, you get to basketball and you do the drills and the coach tells you what to do and what position that you're going to play. That's more like directional coaching, or it's more authoritative coaching. Whereas a personal development coach is about helping you find the answers within and giving you the guidance that you need to get there. So say, for example, it's not about telling you, it's about helping you find the answers, helping you realize, have that self-awareness. So for me, the self-awareness was that I was a people pleaser and I wasn't living my life for me, and also how damaging my self-talk was. So I used to beat myself up all the time, but I had no idea that I could flip the switch, that I could change that, that I could quieten that chatter and turn that inner critic into an inner cheerleader. So I had, until she made me realize this by asking me these amazing questions and telling me and educating me about the inner critic and how it works. And then she gave me lots of strategies to be able to overcome and work on it. So just like a basketball coach, if you go and do the skills, the drills that you have to do, so practice your bouncing, for example. So you go away, you do that, and you become better. And so what the coach does is helps you find the answers within yourself and then gives you the strategies to build that new skill set that you need to overcome that or become better or change your life or whatever it may be. So for my relationship with my clients is very similar because my coach was so amazing. So it's about me asking the right questions, really helping them find the answers within themselves, and then giving them the strategies. So if you think about like a toolbox of different strategies that different people need, because everybody's at a different stage when it comes to their career or their life. And then they go away and practice that, and then they grow and change and evolve and transform. So that's really how the coaching relationship works.
So a lot of what you, because I follow you, a lot of what you talk about is the overcoming the fear, like those self, like limiting beliefs. And you mentioned the damaging self-talk. Can you give me an example of what that is, or at least what it was for you?
Yeah. So say, for example, so there's different things. So if you think about self-talk is that little voice inside your head, right? And the little voice inside your head, it serves a purpose. It's there to protect us. It's there to protect us from danger, from harm. But what it does, it protects us from danger and harm, but it sometimes becomes so loud that it thinks everything is danger and everything is harm, and it stops you from going after what you want to do. All right. And it becomes a critic. So say, for example, what my inner critic used to say was, you're worthless. So it's if you think about those voices, it goes all the way back to my childhood when I was picked on and bullied for, being lower class. You're not good enough. You're worthless. You're an idiot. You sound stupid. You don't know how to spell. You don't know how to write properly. You're not good enough. You're lower than everybody else. You're an idiot. You're ugly. Like, my inner critic was so horrible. It was constantly comparing me to other people, and whoever I would look at, it would always be something negative about me. You've got anything about my appearance, about the way I speak, about any of my abilities. It was constantly putting me down.
So do you consider that, or is that inner voice our subconscious? Is it just a learned? Okay.
Yes. It's your subconscious mind. Yes.
That is developed from so far back that all those experiences, without you being aware, kind of build up to develop
exactly.
inner
And
mindset.
At that point, I didn't even I didn't have awareness of even hearing that voice inside my head. It was just, I thought it's just the way I am. But you can change that. And it's the programming of your mind. It's the programming based on your life experience and the beliefs and the emotions that you've experienced. You have a program that runs in your mind. And it's about changing that programming.
Yeah. So that's what I find interesting, because it's not that you necessarily actually hear a voice. It's almost like an underlying feeling of all those things, right?
Yes.
Like that permeates every decision that you make, that everything you're about to do.
Absolutely.
Then how do you retrain that? If it's something that's so ingrained in you, how do you start to retrain your mind?
Yes. So there's many steps that you go through, but number one is awareness. So it's firstly becoming aware of what are the thoughts that you constantly have. What are the things that you're saying to yourself that hold you back? So say, for example, I was not, or the biggest, loudest voice was, I'm not worthy, you're not good enough, you don't deserve that. So that would constantly, you're not going to get that, you're not going to get that, you're not going to get that job, you're not as good as that person, you're not worthy, so it's firstly becoming aware. And I didn't even have awareness that this thought process or this programming was going on inside my subconscious mind. So number one is awareness. Number two is understanding the triggers and understanding, for example, the trauma or the reason why. Where is this voice coming from? What has created this? Now, it's often life experiences throughout your life. So then it's about healing those life experiences and facing them and healing them. Now, that is one of the hardest steps
I
because
feel
it's
like,
quite, it can be
yeah, I
quite
feel like
confronting.
even awareness is going to be hard. Like that seems
Mm,
scary to me to confront and admit
mm, mm.
these things that you know, or maybe
Yes.
you're kind of just only subtly aware are even happening.
Yes, absolutely. And I remember the session that I did with my coach when she really dived into this, and I almost felt like she was, at the time, for me, it was so confronting that I felt like she was almost attacking me, but she wasn't. She was just
Mm-hmm.
making me realize what I was saying to myself. It wasn't what she was saying to me. It was what I was saying to myself, but then saying it out loud was so heartbreaking that I would say those things to myself and that I thought that. And I remember I was in tears thinking, why do I say these things to myself? Where has this come from? Like, it was actually a really confronting experience, but even the awareness was such a game changer for me. Having
Mm-hmm.
awareness that it's all me. It's not anyone else, because in my mind, I thought, I think that because that person treated me like this. I think that because this happened to me when I was younger, or that person did this to me. So instead of having awareness and accountability that it was me, it was really confronting because it's my own thoughts, it's my own programming, it's my own self-talk.
So is the healing process then starting to realize, like, is that it? Like maybe not
Yes,
necessarily forgiving those people, but just coming to the
yes.
realization that, okay, so it is that.
Yes, it is that. It absolutely is that. So it is. It's realizing, accepting, and owning it. So, and what I had to go through was I blamed everyone else. It was this person for being so mean to me. It was that person for bullying me. It was my ex-husband for doing this. It was this person for doing that. It was my teacher at school who told me I wasn't good enough. So I had to then have the accountability that I'm holding on to all of these experiences. And the meaning I'm giving it, it's all about the meaning I'm giving it. And then it's about healing and forgiving. Now I had to do a lot of forgiving. I honestly had to do a lot of forgiving, because see how I told you that I was blaming everybody else. So I had to do so my coach identified that forgiveness was one of the strategies she was going to help me with to overcome and heal my trauma. Now that was for me, but I can tell you right now that forgiveness is the key to so many things. And it's also forgiving without that person apologizing to you, or without, whatever it is, just forgiving within yourself. And so that's a strategy that my coach worked on with me, that I do work on with some of my other clients. So forgiveness, acceptance, and letting go, because I held on to certain things, like a certain memory or a certain experience that I would then go, oh, that's not going to happen because this happened to me before. This person's been mean to me before. This person's bullied me before. So that person seems like that person. So I'm not going to give them a chance because I'm holding on to this previous experience. I had to just like work on releasing and letting that go. And how to do that works differently with lots of different people. But for me, meditation, breath work, affirmations, those types of things worked for me. That was the strategy that worked for me to be able to let go and forgive and stop, holding on to that experience.
um, you don't have to get too personal here if you don't want to, but
Yeah.
when you think about specific things that you were holding on to, did you actually go to that person and like almost like an AA thing, like, hey, I forgive you, like for this specific thing? Or was it more just in your own mind, we're letting
In
those
my
things
own
go?
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my own mind, releasing those things and letting them go. And say, for example, was some things that I felt like I needed to apologize to people.
Mm.
So I went and actually apologized to people and said, sorry that I did this, or sorry I acted this way. So it was also me like owning up and owning my own, something that I carried a lot of guilt because I was such a people pleaser. I didn't tell people really how I felt. And what I did, I went through this stage of ghosting people because I was like, I need to get them out of my life. So I just ghosted them. And so ghosting people is one of the worst things you can possibly do because it makes the other person feel so bad and so confused, and they don't know what they've done wrong, and then they're constantly chasing this, and it's a really horrible feeling. So I had to go and apologize to people for ghosting them.
Do you feel like you've let go of all those things, or are there still things that you hold on to that you struggle with?
There's still things that I struggle with.
No, I
So
think that's important though, to see that someone that has reached success, has identified what they want to do, coaches other people, but still
yes.
deals with those things, right? Like
Oh,
you still,
absolutely.
it's always a process.
It's always a process, and it's something that, like, for example, your self-talk and managing your emotions is a constant learning. It's constant growth, and I do a lot of work on managing your emotions, but there's still times that I lose it. There's still times that I overreact. There's still times that I break down and cry. you know so it's about always trying to master it, but you're never going to get to perfect, and perfect just doesn't exist. So it's something that I'm always constantly working on overcoming, because life throws different things at you as well, like really, really big challenges. Like, you think that you've worked on everything and everything's going good, and then boom, something just punches you in the face. And earlier this year, we had an absolute tragedy in our family. Our
Mm.
16-year-old nephew committed suicide out of nowhere on Easter. And, how do you deal with that? You're thinking everything's going good, and then boom, this comes and punches you right in the face. And then you spiral, and all of these emotions start coming through, and then it's another traumatic experience that you need to learn and grow from and overcome. So life is always throwing challenges at us.
Yeah. No, and recently you've talked a lot about celebrating achievements. And you
Yes.
mentioned it earlier, kind of turning yourself, your little voice, into a cheerleader rather than that critic.
Yes.
Why
Yes.
is celebrating those achievements important?
Oh, it's so important in so many ways. Well, number one, because it makes you feel good inside. It
Mm.
triggers a sense of joy and happiness and success and fulfillment inside. And what we can do is we can get so busy in our to-do list, so busy in the rat race of life, that we're to do, get on, get on, get on, get on, get on. And we're on this hamster wheel, right? And so if we're just constantly doing, and we're constantly in this burn and churn, where's fulfillment and happiness and excitement and success come in? And so that's why we've got to stop that hamster wheel, get off, and celebrate, because it makes you feel good. It helps your confidence. It helps your self-worth. It helps, your ability to take yourself to the next level. And it just feels good.
Well, how do you talk to someone about, I guess I'm asking for myself, someone that doesn't want to necessarily draw attention to themselves? Like, so that can seem conceited, or like you're asking for attention when you celebrate things. I guess maybe it doesn't
Yes.
have to be a public thing, or do you
Yeah, of
recommend it
course it
being okay?
it doesn't have to be a public thing at all. But also, if you deserve it, you deserve it, right? Like, so it's
Yeah.
about standing in your personal power and standing in your worth. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I did this and I deserve to be recognized. But it's not like gloating. I think that that's what you're kind of getting at. Like, you're not gloating, oh, look at me. I'm so awesome. I'm so awesome. I've done this, I've done that. But what I say to my clients is celebrate yourself. So what I do, especially, and I'm talking a lot about celebrating achievements now, because it's the end of the year, and a lot of people become burnt out at the end of the year. And oh, another year done, you know. But if you look back, you can achieve so much in a year. And often we just think, oh, we're just getting on, let's go for New Year's and let's get on with the next year and let's set new goals. But let's stop and celebrate and look how far we've come, because often a lot of people don't do this, and how far you can come in a year and how much you can achieve in a year and how much you can grow in a year is amazing. It's incredible. But yet we often forget about that because we're not programmed. If we think about our mind, we're programmed to have the inner critic who looks out for danger and protects us. We're not actually our minds aren't programmed to stop and celebrate. So it's actually a muscle we need to build. And that's why I talk about it so much, because it doesn't come natural to us. A lot of people don't do it. And then there is that perceived kind of negative thought process around, oh, that person's got tickets on themselves, or they're gloating, or whatever that may be. But to celebrate yourself can be as simple as doing something that lights you up. So I say to my clients, what's one of the most favorite things that you like doing? Now, some of them say taking a walk on the beach, going to my favorite restaurant, you know, going and buying myself, you know, the latest makeup or Gucci bag or whatever it may be. So it's about what means something to you and stopping and celebrating yourself. So it might be taking your wife and kids out to your favorite restaurant, or, you know, whatever that may be. Whatever means something to you is a way that you can stop and celebrate.
So then how do you, because we're at that time of the year, how do you tell your clients to set goals so that they maybe can have those little celebrations? Or is it, I'll just leave it like that. How do you go about maybe at the first of the year setting your goals for that year?
Yeah. So basically, I have a process, and I really started at the end of December. So the start of December. The start of December is all about reflecting on the year that was, reflecting on your achievements, but it's also having a growth mindset to look at what worked well, what didn't work well, and what did we learn and how did we grow. So first, it's about reflecting on that. Like, how did I go against the goals that I set at the start of the year? Now, not everybody reaches all of their goals, but if you reach more than 50%, awesome. Like, what worked well? What did you do that worked well? So it's firstly about reflecting, secondly about learning and growing. And then the next thing that I do is really think about setting a vision. So I don't start with goals. I start with setting a vision for the year. So I start with doing a visualization and a session with my clients that would think about the year that was, that you imagine that it's the end of the year and you think about all of these things that you've achieved. How are you feeling? That's the most important thing. Like, what feelings are you accessing? Do you want to feel? And based off that, then what goals do you want to do and you want to put in place? So it's quite a process of doing the reflection, having the growth, setting the vision, then putting the goals into play.
How do you teach your clients to define what success is? This is something that I struggle with a lot because I feel like I'm still battling with it in my own mind about what does success even mean for me? So I'm curious at
Yes.
your insight on how you tell people to frame that.
Yeah, so look, and success is different for different people, and it's different in different areas or categories of your life as well. So what I do is that I break it down into different categories. So say, for example, I always start with health and fitness. So it's about breaking it down, because what does success look like is a very big, broad question. Yes? Because
Yes.
where do I even start? So I start by breaking it down into, in my opinion, the key categories of your life. So say, for example, health and fitness, because without your health, what is life? So I kind of have this priority of different categories that we go through. And then what does talking about health and fitness, what does the best version of you look like? So I do an exercise that says, okay, right, so I am feeling fit and toned. I weigh X amount of kilos or pounds. I go to the gym 3 times a week, whatever that means. Like I've got energy, my skin looks good. It means different things to different people. Okay. So what does it look and feel like the best version of yourself? That's how I define success. Okay.
Okay.
So in each area, then we go relationships and family. So what does the best version of you look and feel like when it comes to relationships and family? You've got time for your family, you're taking your kids to sports, you're having quality conversations, you've got your family values, whatever that may be. But if you think about success is what does the best version of you look like in those categories?
That's very insightful. And it's something that like I wrote down the best version of you because I think that what I like about it is the idea that um you can always you may never reach it, right? Like there is
Yeah.
no so because there's some quote that says, that the person that enjoys walking will make it further than the person that likes the destination because it's about
Yes,
enjoying that journey and enjoying that process. So if your goal,
absolutely.
if success for you is maximizing your potential, that's almost like just growing. You know what I mean? Your
Yes.
goal is the growth.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the categories that I talk about, or like that I break it down into, is also personal growth. So, what does the best
Okay.
version of you look like? And
So
for
it's
me, it's growing every year. It's learning something new. It's not getting stuck. It's not getting stale. It's learning something new every year.
are those the only three categories, the fitness, family, and personal growth, or are there more?
No, there's more.
Okay.
So fitness, health and fitness is first, like your health is first, your family and relationships. Then you've got your business or career, your financial goals. I say, what does abundance look like?
So
Personal growth.
you separate career and financial. Those are two.
Yes. Yes.
Is
Yeah,
there a reason?
absolutely. Yes, because people often, and the reason I purposely do this is people often define success in their career or business financially.
Mm.
So if you take the finance out of it and think about fulfillment, it's a really different way of looking at it.
No,
But
I
some
really.
people say, I want success in my career looks like earning $500,000 a year. Okay, well, I took a job that earned multiple six figures, and it looked like burnout. It looked like working 6 days a week. It looked like, so do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I purposely make them different, and I call financial abundance. What does that look like?
No, I like this for
That's
multiple reasons because I kept thinking of success as a singular thing
yes,
that
yeah,
all those, but I like that it's in different categories. So
yes,
I really
yes. And if you imagine it like a pie, right? Like a
okay.
circle, like a wheel, and then there's each category is the piece of the wheel or piece of the pie, and it's then about having balance around them all because we might have success, well, we might be the best version of ourselves. And what people often are is the best version of themselves in their career, and their health is terrible. Like I've literally so I've worked in the big four banks in Australia in the finance industry. And one of our bosses had a heart attack at his desk
Mm,
and died.
yeah.
Like, so yeah, he might have been earning like $500,000-600,000 a year, but he had a heart attack at his desk and died. That's not
Yeah, that's not
success,
good.
is it? So that is why I put them into the pieces, and it's a lot easier to break down success that way. And then people also, they might have this amazing job, but they're unhappy because they're not focusing on their health. They're not focusing on their relationships. They're not focusing on their personal growth. They're not focusing on financial abundance and being grateful, because financial abundance can just be being grateful for what you've got, opposed to always wanting more.
Mm. Is there a ranking to these, or is it truly each one is equal in that pie, or do you tell people to focus on one first? Like, is there a foundation for that?
Always health, always health first. Always health first. So basically, you think about it, they're equal pieces of the pie, but without your health, nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, because just like this guy who had a heart attack at his desk, okay, he might have been earning huge amounts of money, but can't take that money to your grave.
Yeah. It reminds me of another quote that I should probably write down the people that say these things so I can give them credit. But it's like, you think that you value money the most, but if someone were to say, I'll give you $5 million, but you're going to die tomorrow, you wouldn't take it.
Yes.
Or like, I'll
Yes.
give you $5 million, but your a loved one's going to die. It's like, well, then you wouldn't
Yes.
take it. So you actually value time, your family,
Yes.
your friends,
Yes.
all these things more than money. And it was like such a
Yes.
cool way to look at it. And it kind
Yes.
of goes back to you saying your health and fitness has to be first, because what's it matter if you can't enjoy any of it?
Yes, yes, exactly. And when I was telling that story about the time that I was on the train and I was on the way to work and I was earning huge amounts of money, but I just didn't feel fulfilled. So I'm just burning and churning. I'm wasting time doing something that doesn't fulfill me. And now, as an entrepreneur, it's so different from a financial perspective, because one month you could be, amazing. It could be amazing. And then the next month is not so amazing. So you kind of ride that wheel, but the fulfillment that I get from being a coach overrides all of that. Right. It's always worth it.
So again, I think I'm asking for myself here, but we've talked a lot about, you kind of beat those inner criticisms of yourself, but do you still
Mhm.
fall victim to like worrying about what other people think when you're doing things? So like, I think that that's something I've always struggled with, is like you're going to do something or you're going to strive for something, but some
Mhm.
part of you thinks about like, well, what's this person going to say about it? And then
Yeah.
how do you advise people to get past that stuff?
Yeah. So that is overcoming the inner critic and doing the healing first, and then also growing within yourself and building that confidence that you can say, okay, yes, that thought came into my mind, but I'm not letting it consume me. I'm letting it go. So it's the
Okay.
inner critic. So for me, okay, I acknowledge you, I hear you, but it's not going to stop me. And I've got that strength within myself to do that now. But previously I didn't.
I
So
like that.
if you do the work at the start, you can do those thoughts come into my mind, yes, but I can quickly overcome it and turn it around and not let it stop me. And that's the most important thing, because we're never going to tame. It's not about silencing the inner critic, because as I said, the
Okay.
inner critic is there for a reason. It serves a purpose. It's there to protect us. If we didn't have the inner critic and someone broke into our house and we went, come in and just take everything. So we need it, but it's also about understanding, when is it serving you in
Yeah.
the right way and when is it not serving you. Like if you were walking down a dark alley and somebody was behind you and your voice said, run, run, run quick, you're going to do that. You're not going to say, shut up, I'm not going to run, I'm not in danger. um, so it is understanding when it's serving you, and that is the secret ingredient
Okay.
of understanding when it's serving you and understanding when it's not serving you.
No, I like the way you put that, because even if I'm concerned with other people's thoughts, that's still a
Mhm.
self-limiting belief, because
Yes,
they haven't actually voiced those concerns to me. So I'm putting that
exactly.
on them. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so many times, like if you think about, you've had a scenario where you think, oh, like I've got to confront this person, I have to give someone feedback, or, I need to have an awkward conversation with my wife or my partner. You think, oh, they're going to lose it. They're going to overreact. They're going to get so upset. They're going to get so angry. And then you actually have the conversation and then, cool, it's all good. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
because you have created this program in your mind that this is going to happen, when you don't actually know that. It's actually all yourself that's creating
Yeah.
that.
And I guess it's just human nature, right? Like we think that, what is it? Is it it's not the halo effect. It's the self, something in psychology where they talk about people don't think about you as much as you think they do. Like nobody cares about you.
Yes, yes, exactly. And you know what? Everyone's favorite topic is themselves.
Mm,
They're
I
not
like that.
worried about you, they're worried about
Yeah,
themselves.
they don't care.
So that's a really good way to put it as well.
I like that. So what are Kat's goals for the next year? When you look at, and it could be in any of these pieces of the pie, but when you're
Mhm.
looking at, planning for next year, what are things that you're focused on?
Yeah, so for me, my biggest, so if I think about the feelings that I want to access, so that's the most important thing. So for me, I want to access a sense of financial freedom. So that's really important to me. So that feeling of financial freedom, that feeling of yes, I can just do whatever I want. I don't have to worry about the financial side of things. I'm abundant. Also, a sense of happiness. Happiness is so important to me. I want that sense of achievement, that sense of joy, that sense of excitement, and also adventure. I love adventure. I love going on holidays and I love traveling and I'm, excited to do all of these things with my daughter. So that's
Yeah.
where I start. That's what I want to think. That's what I want to feel. And then how does that play out for me? Well, for me, from a fitness perspective, I want to make sure that I'm implementing my daily practices, which is my exercise, it's my meditation, it's eating well, and it's feeling good. So making sure that like that's what health and fitness looks like for me. And then I've gone through each other category to know what that looks and feels like for me. But really, at the end of the day, I want to feel financially free. I want to feel happy. I want to feel excited, and I want to have a sense of adventure. And that's what I want the year to look like for me.
Um, I could dive into a lot of those, but I want to ask about the financial one because what I like about you is a lot of your um, content and coaching goes towards people that are not just entrepreneurs, but that are in a career. So,
Yes.
does financial freedom for you, is it like, hey, I have to have X amount saved up that everything's covered? Or is it more like I'm in control of where that income's coming from? Like, how do you think about,
Yes,
okay,
exactly. I'm in control of where that income is coming from. Yes, absolutely. And that it just flows to me, that it's flowing to me in abundance. And then
gotcha.
everything else plays out. So I am like a big spender. I love spending money. And I did a program with a coach, like a wealth coach,
Yeah.
and she made me realize how much I love spending money. So one of the things that I need to work on is keeping money and saving money and investing money. So having that balance as well. So, but you're exactly right. So to me, it's about that flow and abundance coming in.
Okay, and it could also be, and maybe it's not for you, but for some people, that's about that the stressors of maybe where there's debt or those expenses go, right? So sometimes
Mm,
reducing those
yes,
expenditures help that.
yes, yes, absolutely,
So
definitely.
I'm always just curious at how people think about the different goals for themselves, and because the more you talk to people, the more you realize that everybody's happiness, everybody's goals look different, and I think that
Yes.
that's why it's important for people to hear from people like you that not only teach people all around the world how to do it,
Mm,
you still
mhm,
struggle with things yourself, but that
mhm.
there's not just one linear path. There's not just one goal that everybody should
No.
strive for.
Oh, absolutely, because success is different to everyone. And
Yeah.
so what I say is that I help people kind of up level in their life, but up level, right, taking it to the next level means different things to different people. Now, if you think the number one thing a lot of people think is getting promoted at work, that might be up level to one person, but it could be changing careers. It could be becoming a coach. It could be becoming an entrepreneur. It could be stopping and studying something that they've been really, really passionate about. So it's not always just like one path up, if that makes sense. It's not one path. It's what it means to different people and what they want and what success looks and feels like to them and helping them get there.
Well, no, and I like the terminology of up level because it's almost like it's just enough to keep it challenging, right? Because you
Yes.
had the experience of you don't want to max out level, you don't want to go clear to the
Yes.
top
I went way too high, way too
too
fast.
quickly.
Yeah.
When I think some people think like, oh no, I want to be at the top now. I need it now. But a
Yes.
lot of
Yes.
times you're not really prepared for that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I like literally from 23, I was like, I want to be CEO of
Yeah.
this bank. And I was just so determined to get there. And but I didn't actually understand the consequence. And I didn't understand that I just needed to take it step by step. And I was always wanting to jump ahead as well. So I would literally get promoted 3 months later. When's the next promotion coming?
Yeah.
Like that's how quickly I wanted to move up. And I look back and I worked for some amazing teams. And I have one team in particular that was just the best team ever. Like, we had so much fun and just such great people, and I loved it and I enjoyed it. But like 6 months in, I was focused on the next thing. And I look back and think, I could have stayed there for 4 or 5 years and just had such an amazing time in such an awesome team culture and environment that I wasn't actually enjoying or being grateful for what I had at that point in time. I was just too focused on the next step, So when you've got a good thing, just embrace it and be grateful for what it is, opposed to racing to the next step. And that was a huge lesson that I learned.
Yeah, because it's important to like be challenged, and it's okay to want to be CEO, right? But I think, because one thing I always did, especially in the corporate world, it's like you get a promotion or maybe you start a new job, and it's like it's fun, it's challenging for like 3-4 months at a time, but then that kind of fades away.
Yes.
Why? I don't know what that is, but what do you tell someone that struggles with that? Like, I'm motivated when it's new and fun, but then it kind of fades away. Like, is it just about being patient, or is it maybe you need to find something different?
Yeah, it's being patient and it's being grateful, but it's also having that level of growth. Okay, so it's having something that what excited you to begin with, how can you tap into that again, and how can you keep that going? Not necessarily by jumping to the next level, because that's what I always thought it was, but how can you still be challenged? Or it might be in the corporate world, for example, taking on a new project or doing a volunteering for a charity or something like that, where you're still getting that sense of excitement and achievement, but you're also being grateful for what you've got at the time.
No, I like that. Yeah, I forget to be grateful a lot. So it's like you're focused on growth, and by being happy with the things you have. You don't want to get content, but you can still be grateful for what's going on.
Absolutely, definitely. And gratitude is another one of those secret ingredients that is the key to happiness as well. Because when you're in a place of gratitude, it's basically impossible to feel angry. It's impossible to feel fearful. It's impossible to just want more or to not embrace what you've got. So having that feeling of gratitude is one of the most blissful feelings you can have.
No, like, hey, I'm gonna let you get to your day. But I could talk to you for another couple hours.
Amazing, excellent.
I can't thank you enough for spending this time with me and chatting through all this, and look forward to everything you're doing next.
Awesome, amazing, excellent. You have a fantastic night, and so let me know how this plays out, where you're going to share it, and all of that type of thing.
Well, I'll let you also, I guess, plug. I mean, where can people find you the best? What's the best way that people can get a hold of you or see what you're doing?
Absolutely, LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is my main platform that I use. So you'll see everything about Kat May Jeffrey on LinkedIn, and I really make an effort to post content 5 to 6 times a week and share lots of tips, strategies, and inspiration and all of that type of thing. So on my LinkedIn profile, there's a bunch of different links that you can get in contact with me, but just jump on a call with me. I do discovery calls, which is just a 15 to 20-minute chat around where you're at and how I can help you. And look, I'm going to be honest that I can't help everyone, and I can only work with a certain amount of people, and I work with people who I can really help and change their lives and transform their lives, and people who are ready to take action as well, because some people think that I want to coach and I want to change, but they're not actually ready yet. So that's what I do. Then that's why I offer these free discovery calls, to make sure that it's the right fit and make sure that I can help you. And if I can't help you, then I'll share someone who I think that can. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll look forward to hearing from you. Have an amazing Christmas in the meantime, and a great new year. And I look forward to continuing to stay in contact.
All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you.
Ciao, ciao.